My sister-in-law slapped me in front of everyone because I accidentally pushed her. My husband took her side, and now he is shocked that I want a divorce. Last week, I went to my mother-in-law's house for a family dinner. It was supposed to be a nice evening like any other family event. Both my husband Ray and I were excited to arrive. The atmosphere was warm and cheerful. Everyone was having a good time. After dinner, the atmosphere became even more lively. The adults started drinking, relaxing, and enjoying the night. As the night went on, my mother-in-law acted as the perfect host, refilling wine glasses and keeping spirits high. At one point, the music started and some of the adults began to dance. My husband and I joined in too, letting ourselves be carried away by the fun. I didn't realize my sister-in-law was right behind me. I was moving to the rhythm of the music, and at one point, I accidentally pushed her. This caused my wine glass to tip over, and before I could react, the wine spilled all over her dress. It was a total accident. My sister-in-law let out a scream of horror, and I was also wearing a white dress that was now completely soaked in a deep red wine color. I immediately started apologizing, explaining that it had been an accident, but I could see she was furious. My husband Ray quickly grabbed some napkins and brought them over so his sister could try to dry the wine. I kept apologizing, trying to help clean up the mess, when she started yelling at me, although you could tell she was trying to take out all her frustration. "Are you blind?" she yelled at me. "Can't you see what's going on around you? How can you be so clumsy to spill your wine on me?" I kept apologizing over and over, trying to make amends, while she kept reprimanding me, calling me careless and stupid for ruining her dress. Then, at one point, helped by the wine I had drunk earlier, I finally replied, "I'm really sorry, but I don't have eyes in the back of my head. How was I supposed to know you'd be right behind me like a ninja?" My husband Ray let out a laugh at my comment while we continued trying to clean her up. The idea of my words was to joke so she would release some tension, but they had the opposite effect. My sister-in-law visibly stiffened, but the only thing I achieved was making my sister-in-law look at me with even more fury. The next moment, before I could process what was happening, she slapped me hard across the face. The sound of the slap was loud enough to echo. My cheek was burning, so it wasn't a simple slap, but a rather hard one. Everyone was in silence, which made it feel even worse. On top of this, my sister-in-law kept screaming, "How dare you answer back to me? I can stand wherever I want. You should have been more careful. I can't believe you ruined my dress with how stupid you are. Do you even know how much this dress costs? Do you know the brand I'm wearing? You can't even afford something like this." I was mortified, standing there with all eyes on us. My husband Ray didn't say a word. He just stood there watching in silence while his sister reprimanded me in front of everyone. At that moment, my mother-in-law and father-in-law quickly intervened to try and calm my sister-in-law down. My mother-in-law tried to gently comfort her and take her away so she wouldn't make more of a scene, but my sister-in-law wouldn't have it. Her voice rose louder again. "This was my favorite dress!" she screamed, practically shaking with anger. "It's completely ruined because of her. See this stain? It's not coming out." Then she turned her head back to me to glare at me furiously. "You are going to replace it, and I will make sure you pay for every last penny of what it costs." Her tone became even more acidic as she added, "Although I doubt you can even afford something like this with your pathetic salary." I think that is what hurt me the most of all, because she wanted to embarrass me, especially with my salary. To give some context, my sister-in-law married a rich man shortly after graduating from college. Her husband is significantly older than her. He is 13 years older than her, and about 9 years older than Ray and me. He is a professional who comes from a wealthy family, which puts her in a very comfortable financial position. Since getting married, she has lived a life of luxury and thinks the rest of us are poor. The most ironic thing of all is her self-identification as a traditional wife. Yes, you heard that right, she describes herself as a traditional wife. Unlike us, she spends a lot of her time making TikToks about how her purpose in life is to serve her husband and prepare to be a good mother for her future children. To her, being a traditional wife is a point of pride that she wears like a badge, but she views the rest of the world and other people through a lens of privilege and arrogance. It's ironic because they have so much money that she doesn't even have to do anything for her husband. The people her husband hires do it. It's not like she waits for him with a meal after a day of work. My sister-in-law's husband, being the rich man that he is, has always given her everything she wants in life. Therefore, I completely understand that her dress must have been really expensive. Honestly, I felt terrible for spilling wine on it. I really was sorry, but even though I could have been more careful, I really wonder if my mistake deserved that reaction. Did it justify her slapping me in the face, humiliating me in front of everyone, screaming, and insinuating that I was poor? Even though I wasn't as rich as her husband, I was doing quite well in life. I mean, I'm not poor like she says, although compared to her standard of living, anyone would be poor by her standards. I tried to tell her this, but she continued with her tirade, and I felt my blood pressure rising. Her voice was getting higher and higher, and that was upsetting me. She was very close to my face, digging her perfectly manicured fingernails into my arm. While all that was happening, I couldn't realize it or didn't want to, but I felt my hand move before my brain could react. I slapped her back hard, so hard that it left her completely silent. Mine was probably even worse than hers. Her cheek turned deep red. Then I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Can you stop screaming for a moment so I can speak? I am going to replace your dress, so stop screaming about how I can't afford this. You have never had to spend a dime without someone else paying for it, so who are you to call me poor?" You could see that my sister-in-law was struggling to process what I was saying to her. She looked furious. But before we could argue any further, my mother-in-law pulled me away from her. "Get away from her! She yelled, while then starting to check my sister-in-law's face. My husband, who had remained silent during his sister's previous tantrum, now joined his mother and began to worry about his sister. Both were suddenly full of concern for her as she started crying loudly, lamenting how disrespectful I was and how no one had ever slapped her before. Maybe that was the problem. My father-in-law, visibly alarmed, ran to get ice for her face as if I had done irreparable damage to his daughter. The way they were reacting was almost surreal. It was as if my sister-in-law had been shot or a grenade had exploded in her face. My slap had been hard, but not that hard. All the melodrama was overwhelming. Suddenly, my husband Ray turned against me. "You had no right to slap my sister," he shouted. "This is all your fault. All you had to do was apologize and keep your mouth shut." Trying to defend myself, I said, "We were dancing, your sister came up from behind me, and I didn't see her. Spilling my wine on her dress was an accident." I apologized over and over again, but what justified her slapping me in the first place? At this point, I was determined to defend myself because it was everyone against me. Before Ray could answer, my sister-in-law rebooted her brain and answered me, "How dare you slap me? Do you even know who you're messing with? I'm going to sue you for assault. You're going to pay for this. Remember that." Then she turned to Ray, yelling at him too. "What a shame! How come you can't control your woman? She has no right to say anything to me after what she did." Without waiting for anyone's response, she stormed off to the bathroom to change, with my mother-in-law following closely behind to comfort her, like she was her tail. I was still standing in the middle of the living room, surrounded by everyone murmuring and clearly talking about me. Somehow they saw me as the villain in this situation. That was when Ray turned to me, frustrated and disappointed. "You need to go home," he said. "What?" I asked. "Why?" It seemed crazy to me that he would say this. I could hardly believe that my own husband was telling me to leave, and in front of everyone. "You've done enough," he continued. "You've made a scene and my sister needs to calm down. She can't do that while you're still here." He added, "You shouldn't have slapped her back. In fact, you shouldn't have done anything no matter what she did to you. You are older than her. You should act more maturely. I'm sure she didn't do it intentionally when she slapped you, but you made things worse by slapping her back. You only escalated the situation unnecessarily." My father-in-law chimed in, nodding in agreement with Ray. "It's best if you leave," he ordered. They were kicking me out of the house, not just my in-laws, but my own husband. I couldn't believe he had completely chosen his sister's side, regardless of how unfairly I had been treated. I didn't see the point in arguing at that moment. I grabbed my things, quickly ordered an Uber, and left on my way home. On the ride, I could only think about what had gone so wrong for the night to end like this. All I did was defend myself after being humiliated, slapped, and insulted. Was it really so unforgivable? And why didn't my husband Ray take a stand for me? I mean, I knew that for my husband, his little sister always came first. For example, when I first met his family, it was at a casual lunch. I remember being nervous, but throughout the meal, my sister-in-law spent her time and energy interrogating me about every detail of my life, my upbringing, my education, even my job. It didn't feel like a polite conversation, but rather like an interrogation. I remember feeling bewildered by her intrusiveness. To be clear, both Ray's family and mine come from similar socioeconomic backgrounds, and I already worked in the tech industry, a field that paid me significantly more than what Ray earned in advertising. However, despite all this, she acted as if I wasn't good enough for her brother. At one point, she even openly said that Ray was a great catch and that he should be careful about getting serious with anyone. And where was Ray during all this? Sitting in silence, of course. Not once did he speak up to defend me. He simply let his sister say what she said without challenging her, as if it wasn't his place to intervene. After that lunch, when we were alone, I told Ray how upset I was. I explained that it wasn't fair for his sister to treat me that way, and more importantly, that he should have defended me. To be fair, at the time, he apologized. He told me he hadn't even realized how his sister's behavior looked and excused her by saying she was being protective of him and that he hadn't heard the whole conversation because he was thinking about something else. He promised me that next time he would take a stand in my favor, but over time, his promise faded away. He only did it in the beginning. Over time, he just let it go until he returned to his usual self. However, this was different. She had never been physical with me. When I got home, I was waiting for Ray to come back so we could talk, maybe even argue if necessary, anything to address the chaos of the night. But he never returned. Instead, in the middle of the night, I received a voicemail from him. He told me his sister was still upset and that he, along with his mother and father, was going to take care of her. As if that wasn't already hard enough, he continued by saying that most of his family believed I was in the wrong, and if his sister went ahead with her threats to sue me for assault and emotional damage, he would have no choice but to support her because she is his family. And he didn't stop there. He told me I needed to offer his sister a sincere apology, one that would calm her down enough to dissuade her from moving forward forward with her legal threats. I know many people in my position would have given in. Maybe they would have apologized, swallowed their pride, and admitted to something they didn't believe in, all for the sake of keeping the peace or avoiding more conflict, but I couldn't. I knew deep in my heart that I had done nothing wrong. Yes, spilling the wine had been an accident, but I had apologized repeatedly. The slap I gave my sister-in-law wasn't unprovoked. It was a reaction to being humiliated, insulted, and physically assaulted in front of everyone. If anyone should have apologized, it was her. She had slapped me first. She had escalated the situation because she is an entitled person. I knew that if she moved forward with a lawsuit, she wouldn't have a solid case. Her claims of emotional damage were laughable at best given the circumstances. It was obvious that her threats were nothing more than a power move, a way to force me to beg for her forgiveness to soothe her wounded ego. But what hurt me the most wasn't my sister-in-law's action. It was Ray. Throughout this whole ordeal, he proved where his loyalty truly resided. With his family, not with me. The fact that he could so easily take her side, even after everything I had endured, spoke volume. Not once did he ask me if I was okay. He didn't reach out to me or offer any comfort. Instead, he spent the night blaming me for everything, as if I were the sole cause of the chaos that night. While listening to his message, I understood something painful but necessary. This wasn't just a problem with his sister or his family, it was a problem with him, with our relationship. So the next morning, when I woke up and my husband still hadn't come home, I decided to pack my things and leave the house. No notes, no explanation. By the time Ray finally returned home and found I was gone, I imagined he must have been shocked because my phone started ringing with his calls. I answered, and he demanded to know where I was. There was no concern in his voice, not a hint of distress or sadness. He was just angry. He yelled about how he didn't expect to come home and find it empty, and he was furious that I had left with all my things. Then, as if he wanted to justify his anger, he proudly announced that he had worked very hard to convince his sister to come back with him to our house. His grand plan was for her to receive a face-to-face apology from me so the whole situation could be resolved. I couldn't help but let out a sarcastic laugh. Keeping calm, I told him I was going to my parents' house and made it clear I had no intention of returning anytime soon, as I had a lot to think about. I also told him very clearly that I would not apologize to his sister for something that wasn't my fault. However, I added that if his sister wanted to apologize to me for her behavior, I would be more than willing to listen to her. It wasn't what he expected to hear. He argued that, as his wife, I couldn't just leave like that. He called me rude and inconsiderate and demanded that I return home immediately, but I told him no. I also let him know that if his sister wanted to move forward with her empty threats to sue me, she was more than welcome to try. I assured him that I would respond with a countersuit for the assault she committed against me first, and that I had a room full of witnesses who saw her strike me. Hearing this, Ray lost his mind even more. He started calling me names, yelling insults, words so ugly and hurtful that I don't even want to repeat them here. So I am currently at my parents' house. I have told them what happened to me. My dad is completely on my side and has even scolded Ray for not defending me. However, my mom thinks I shouldn't have left my husband's side without talking to him first, and that communication is key to solving our problems. So Reddit, am I the bad guy? Update 1. Today I looked up the price of the dress online and sent the money to my sister-in-law. I hope this puts an end to her complaints about the dress. I know many of you didn't want me to pay her, but I don't want to owe her anything. I ruined her dress, and I always intended to compensate for it. It's what decent people do, and it's what I like to do. I even compensated her for the slap too. I would also like to clarify a few things that have come up repeatedly in the comments. First, as a woman, I know when another woman is deliberately trying to upset me. My sister-in-law has always had this inexplicable need to compete with me from the beginning. Even though I have never seen her as competition, it's clear she is jealous of me for something, although exactly what, I can't pinpoint. If I had to guess, it could be the fact that I have built a successful life and career for myself. Unlike her, I didn't marry a rich man to afford nice things or a comfortable life. All my life, I have worked hard to achieve everything I have, and I suppose this financial independence is something she resents. My sister-in-law married a wealthy man and seems to depend entirely on him for the life she leads. Although her husband gives her everything, he is also somewhat controlling. Since he is much older than her, in the past, she has complained to us that he doesn't let her go out much with her friends or wear certain clothes that he doesn't like. However, I feel no pity for her. This is the life she chose for herself. She likes to show off her luxurious lifestyle, constantly reminding us how privileged she is. She boasts about her vacations in exotic places, the designer clothes and bags she buys, or how she doesn't have to worry about working because her husband takes care of everything. She spends all day lounging by the pool, getting her nails done, or doing Pilates. So I don't understand why she resents me or sees me as competition when this is the life she always wanted. Second, my sister-in-law's husband was not present at the dinner that night. Usually he never attends any of our family events because he is too busy working. Besides, the few times I have met him, he is very level-headed, so I am sure that if he had been present, my sister-in-law would never have slapped. He would never have allowed her to throw a tantrum like that, as he takes great care of his image in front of other people. Lastly, after reading hundreds of comments on my post, I can't help but agree with everyone. My husband has always been manipulative. For years, I wore rose-colored glasses, choosing to overlook the patterns that have always been there. The truth is that he has constantly supported his family over me, and I have allowed myself to believe that this is how things should be. Take Christmas and New Year's, for example. We have always celebrated those holidays with his family year after year. Despite my repeated requests to alternate and spend those important holidays with my family, he has always manipulated me by saying his family comes first. Whenever I bring it up, he insists that as a good daughter-in-law, I must compromise and prioritize his family over mine. I always feel that my needs, my family, and my traditions don't matter as much as his. In those moments, I have always felt guilty for wanting something different. I also blame myself for how things have turned out. I realize now that I have allowed my husband to dictate my life for a long time. His lack of consideration for my feelings, along with his subtle manipulation, has always kept me in a place of doubt. I have always questioned myself, wondering if maybe I was being too demanding or unreasonable. But I'm glad I came to Reddit with my story. Everyone here has finally opened my eyes to the truth. Finally, the reason my mother is somewhat on my husband's side is because she believes I shouldn't allow such an insignificant problem like my sister-in-law being rude or toxic to interfere with my marriage. She clearly doesn't understand how deep this problem is, nor how much it has affected me. She doesn't see how my husband's behavior has worn me down over time. However, she does acknowledge that the fact my sister-in-law slapped me was completely wrong. Update 2. Ray and I finally had a face-to-face conversation in a neutral location away from home, just so we could talk about everything clearly. It's been almost 2 weeks since my last update, and I decided I finally needed to address things with him. When we met, Ray started by apologizing. It took me by surprise because I honestly didn't expect him to apologize at all. He told me how happy he was that I had paid his sister the money for the dress. This was exactly what I had been waiting for, a genuine acknowledgement of the situation. But of course, Ray immediately followed up by saying that now it was my turn to apologize to his family. He explained that I still owed his sister an apology for humiliating her in front of everyone. He told me how his mother and sister had basically threatened to exclude him from the family unless he got me to apologize to her. I looked at him, stunned. I asked him, and what about when she slapped me first? Is she going to apologize to me for that? Then he tried to justify her behavior by saying that his sister was a little drunk and that seeing me spill red wine on her had made her aggressive. He argued that anyone in his sister's position would have reacted the same way, and that I should have simply kept quiet and accepted her reaction. At that moment, I had to stop and take a deep breath. I didn't know if I was more hurt or angry at how little he seemed to understand what I had gone through. Then I told him that while I regretted slapping his sister because I don't like violence, I didn't regret defending myself. I wished he had supported me in front of his family, but he didn't, so I had no choice but to defend myself. Maybe if he had done the right thing, it wouldn't have come to that, but his repeated failure to defend me and his willingness to let his sister treat me like trash made me realize something very important. I couldn't be with someone who didn't respect me. Then I listed every instance where he and his family had treated me poorly over the years and how each of those moments had made me feel. I told him that as my husband, if he wasn't even brave enough to stand up to his spoiled sister, then I didn't see the point in continuing our relationship. Ray argued that he loved his family and didn't like confronting them, especially his precious sister. He pointed out that I was his wife, so he felt I could understand why it was important for him to keep the peace. I told him that being his wife didn't mean I was obligated to endure disrespect or mistreatment. Every time he remained silent, I felt he was choosing his family over me, and I was tired of being second place in my own marriage. As if this wasn't already enough, Ray also informed me how his mother had basically uninvited me from all future family events at her house, since she didn't want me around them. When I was surprised, Ray argued that this was going to be fine because I didn't like his family anyway. He told me that from now on, for Christmas or New Year's, I was free to spend time with my own family just like I had always wanted, while he would be with his. I laughed in disbelief at how selfish he sounded, the audacity he had to ignore my feelings and try to manipulate me once again. At that moment, I told him I had been thinking about a decision for several days, but after talking to him, everything had become completely clear. I wanted to divorce him. I was done with this marriage. Ray's face immediately dropped, and he looked like he couldn't believe what I had just said. He argued that I wasn't thinking this through and that my anger was doing the talking. Then he said, okay, you don't have to talk talk about divorce. If you don't want to apologize to my sister, I will talk to her and convince her to let it go this time since you are so set on this, but next time don't ever slap my sister again. I told him, I don't care about any of that anymore, Ray. It's over. My lawyer will be contacting you soon. Now you are free to spend the rest of your life attending to your mother and your sister, just like you've always wanted. Ray tried to argue further, but I simply got up and left him standing there. I couldn't be in a relationship where I wasn't valued, where my feelings didn't matter, and where his family always came before our marriage. Since then, Ray has been sending me voicemails begging me not to go through with the divorce. He keeps telling me I am destroying our marriage and that he wants to share the rest of his life with me. I have silenced his messages for now and will continue to ignore him moving forward. Update 3. My mother-in-law has been messaging me insistently since I met with my husband a few days ago and asked for a divorce. She claims I have no right to simply leave her son. According to her, I am making him suffer unnecessarily out of sheer spite. She firmly believes I should fix things by moving back in with my husband, even if I am unhappy in the marriage, and apologizing to my sister-in-law immediately. So today I sent her this message. Margaret, I have already met with a lawyer, so this divorce is going to happen whether you like it or not. Just a heads up, I am more than capable of exposing you and your spoiled daughter on social media now that I no longer care about your family. You and your daughter have done nothing but harass me throughout this entire marriage, and I have screenshots to prove it. So don't test me. Your son is going to be left alone now because of you. I hope the next time he brings a woman home, you think twice before treating her like trash. Since I sent this message, my mother-in-law has read it but hasn't had the courage to respond. I guess she finally realized I am not playing around. As for my sister-in-law, she is blocked, so she can't even contact me. Update 4. With the divorce finalized a couple of months ago, and now being officially away from that family of lunatics, I can tell you more things about them. To begin with, I must say that my ex-brother-in-law helped me with my ex-sister-in-law. Upon finding out about the whole issue, he told her he wouldn't give her money to sue me and that she couldn't use any of his lawyers, who were busy with more serious matters. He also told her she should apologize to me, but that is something she hasn't done. However, he did apologize to me on his wife's behalf, sending me a Christmas basket with various products and a handwritten card telling me all this. The latest I know about them is that they are now living apart because my sister-in-law continues with that behavior. According to his card, this behavior, at least the violent part, has appeared lately because she wanted to be a mother and hasn't been able to get pregnant. They tried for a year and were ready to try new methods, but she was filled with frustration because of it. She also slapped a spa center employee sometime after the party I told you about and has had this type of behavior for a while. That's why he moved to an apartment they have in the city while she stayed in the house. This last part was told to me by my ex-husband at one of our divorce hearings. He wanted to seek some kind of sympathy for his sister, as if the fact that she was suffering justified how she acted, but she was already unpleasant before, and many people suffer problems without treating the rest of humanity poorly. So no, I don't feel any sympathy whatsoever. The divorce is finalized, and I no longer need to worry about them, or their toxicity as a family, or their empty excuses to justify what they have done.